So today we're going to be talking about using 3-point perspective. We've done one, we've done two, now we're going to do it from 3-point perspective. So that's kind of like if you were drawing something with an exaggerated point of view, or if you, let's say we're looking through a camera lens and you really distorted it so that it can look one of two ways. Either like it's a worm's eye view. So the worm looking up, you're looking up at a building and it really is skewed, or you're looking at it from a bird's eye view, you're looking at it from way up top and it's vanishing, disappearing down toward the bottom. All right. This won't necessarily be used all that often unless you're working with things that have like exaggerated point of views, like comics. And that could actually come in handy if you're moving on to paintings and you just want to have this additional skill set. Maybe you're doing some exaggerated points of view. Either way, it's going to be a really helpful tool down the road. Getting practice is always worth it in my mind. So we're going to get practice with it today. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to draw a horizon line. And my horizon line might seem a little bit diagonal to you guys. It's just because my webcam is at a kind of crooked angle. For you, just try and remember to keep everything as straight as you possibly can get it. Okay. I've drawn my horizon line. I'm going to draw my vanishing point 1 or vanishing point left, and my vanishing point 2 or vanishing point right. Okay, R for right, L for left. Okay, either way, I have my 2 vanishing points ready to go. But I have this mysterious third vanishing point as well, which I'm going to put just kind of right in the middle of these two just to keep things simple, and way up here. Okay, that's my vanishing point 3. Okay, and then I will draw a vertical line going even just a little bit above that vanishing point and then all the way down. And this is the only vertical line you're going to draw throughout this entire exercise. So remember, the only vertical. Every other line is going to be diagonal. And I will show you without further ado. Remember, it's going to look a little bit funky as we get started, but what we want this to look like is this by the end. So having that, working with that in mind, it's a little bit easier to get this started. So the first thing you want to do now that you've established your vanishing points is to make your first set of diagonal lines coming off of the vanishing point 3. And this can be at really any angle, depending on what sort of distortion you want, but try to keep the angles even. So if I'm at a 45-degree or a 30-degree angle on one side, I want to try to keep it 45 or 30 on the other side. And if you're not sure, just try eyeballing it, seeing, are these parts pretty equal? Mine aren't. If you guys want to be really perfectionist about it, you can use either an angle finder or you can just keep eyeballing it till you get things exactly right. Okay. So next thing I'm going to do is establish what I want to have as the top corner of my building and the bottom corner of my building on this vertical line I've drawn right here. So I'm going to go about maybe a quarter of the way down and make a mark. And then I'm going to have mine go just a tiny bit below the horizon line. You can have it right on the horizon line, but that makes things a little bit trickier and it doesn't look as believable. So it's usually best to get it just a little bit below. Okay, and then I will just start connecting my vanishing points left and my vanishing points right back to these spots. These are my corners. Okay, so now I've already established the bottom part of my building. It's right there. Then I'm going to draw the top corner of my building down to vanishing point 1. Ta-da. And from this corner down to vanishing point 2. Ta-da. Cool. Now I have the basis of my building. Okay. I can just, mark up so they stand out. And now I have the basic form and outline of my building. Okay. Now, if I wanted to take it further, I can illustrate the ways that you can start getting those details down. So I'm just going to continue from there. Drawing the vanishing point. Right, VP1, VP2, VP3. Establishing that long vertical line, the only vertical line, and then the top corner of my building and the bottom corner of my building. And then I can just draw from corner to corner to the vanishing points. Once you've practiced this a few times, it starts to become really easy. It just becomes like second nature. Oh, and it doesn't really, you don't have to do things like in the specific order. I obviously changed it up this time. I didn't draw my vanishing point 3 lines first. You should think about doing those first just because it's nice to get those established early on. I do it kind of differently every time. So it's up to you. Find your groove. As long as you have these initial lines to start with. Your diagonal lines coming off of VP3, your one vertical line for VP3, and then the points, top corners of your building that connect to VP1, that connect to VP2. Okay, then I can start to play with some dimensions. So let's say I wanted to create a door on this side of the building. Okay, so I will bring my ruler up to vanishing point 3, and I will just make some guidelines for the door. Got one end of the door there. Then I can create the other end of the door here. And then I can connect this corner of the door to this vanishing point over here. Right, it wouldn't go to that vanishing point. That wouldn't make sense. Right, it wouldn't go this way. But if I did a door on this side, it would. So I'll do a door on this side also. Take my ruler up to vanishing point 3 and try to get about halfway in. Okay, so I draw one line there and one line there. And then I can connect vanishing point 1. And the angle's going to go that way. Okay, and I'll just correct that little gap. And then I have my doors. Okay, and then if I wanted to put more guides on it, then I can decide where to put my windows. You can do this a couple different ways. I like to just start giving myself a bunch of guidelines to work with. I go up to vanishing point 3 and I just draw down, move my ruler just a little bit further, trying to be even in my spacing without like getting into precise measurements. It really helps if you have a clear drafting ruler. You can see a lot better like how far your lines are apart, and trying to keep them even space is a lot easier if you have a ruler that's clear. But again, if this is something that you are just trying to get the hang of the exercise and you don't need it to be totally perfect, then you don't have to worry about getting all those lines perfectly spaced. Just so that we can get a hang of making perspective drawings that go back to the perspective lines and just getting the basics. Okay, so now I would know where to start putting my windows on vertical lines, right? Like I could put a window here, I could put a window here, but I would need to know how to make the bottom parts of the window, bottom and the top, right? I know that it's going to be like this, but to make those look perfect, I'm just going to connect my vanishing point 1, and I'm going to draw a line that goes from vanishing point 1 to this vertical line. Then I'll do another diagonal line from vanishing point 1 to this vertical line. Okay, now I just created some guides for my windows. I could go in and fill those in. If I wanted to try to make it look more realistic, maybe I would shade from the top and then get a little bit more of a gradient down at the bottom, or try to create, the illusion like glasses there, if you guys know how to shade for glass. Okay. Then I can do the same thing on the other side, and it's the exact same rule of thumb. We're just creating guidelines going from vanishing point 2 to the vertical line for vanishing point 3. Okay. And then creating these guidelines for vanishing point 3. And like I said, it doesn't quite matter what order you do it in, right? I switched up the order on this side as well. As long as you're including your diagonal guidelines from VP3 down and your diagonal guidelines coming from VP2 going across. Okay. Then you have just basically, you're just creating like a grid, a box, a series of boxes that can serve as your guides, where to put stuff. Okay, and then I could, keep going if I wanted to. I could just keep moving my ruler, adding more and more of these guidelines, being mindful that if I'm trying to make it look perspectively accurate, it would get the spaces between the boxes would get smaller and smaller as it goes closer to the vanishing point. Okay. And the nice thing is that just happens naturally when it's coming back to going across, when it's going back down to vanishing point 2, right? These boxes are smaller than these boxes. I'll do a little bit more of an exaggerated one down here. Okay. This box is smaller than this box. See, and then these boxes are going to be biggest. Up here at the top, they're going to be the smallest. And now you've just created this lovely grid for yourself. And obviously you can do the same thing over here on the other side if you choose to. And then you can just start either filling it in where they're serving more as like little guides for where to put your boxes. And this is like I've drawn here, right? I did, these are these little white lines that separate it were once just my grid lines. And then I just filled in these little boxes inside the way I'm doing here. I'm trying to follow along with that diagonal edge really closely so that I'm not screwing up that angle. So I'm still keeping that perspective. Do it that way. It's kind of hard to tell there. I'll do one here. Think of it like a Pop-Tart. You want to preserve the border where the crust would be. And this little black box is where your frosting is going. And then the one next to it, you do the same. Still trying to follow and obey those diagonal lines. Just like when we were doing our letters, right? You were trying to follow and obey the same diagonal lines or curved lines while you were writing letters on those three-dimensional shapes. Okay, you can do it that way, or like I did here and here, you can just fill the entire thing in. Either way, when you start filling it all out, you start getting that really cool gridded effect. And then you see the results of your labor at the end are pretty satisfying. And once you've laid out these grids, just filling it in can be like a nice meditative process also. Okay, so get started.